Hey everyone, what's going on? This is Ash and Rima from Mass Effect Odyssey, and today we're bringing you what we think is a leak that has been forgotten since PAX 2014, and we think it's PAX Prime 2014 as well. This is something that I found while researching for another video entirely, and looking for it. It's something that we haven't seen, purely because we weren't a channel at the time. I remember the tweet from Mike Gamble going out, but that's all I remember particularly of this. And this basically details a bunch of stuff that was seen at a very small meeting between a few of the developers, and I think you were saying about 21 people?
Yeah, I think it was
so really
21 people in total, yeah.
Yeah. And they got to see things like concept art, and they're asked questions and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so this person decided that they were going to spill the beans and basically detail what they saw and what they were asked and what the answers that people gave were. So Rima had a good look into this as she's had a bit of time off, and she's detailed all the points, and she's going to go through them, and then we're going to have a very quick discussion at the end about them. So, Rima.
So you kind of went over the main point of it. It's the entire panel, and they called it a secret panel, but it wasn't really secret, was to kind of showcase early concept art and ask questions of the participants, and to kind of gauge their response on what, at this point, it wasn't even Mass Effect Andromeda, it was Mass Effect 4. They hadn't announced the game, so it was the upcoming game, basically. To be honest, most of all the stuff they probably showed was probably either approved concept arts that were probably going to make it into the game, or they were just feeling for the response. They probably had decided for most of the story points at this point, but so and they didn't reveal any main story things to the participants, so we'll just go through the points as you said. So the original poster said that the main thing they got asked when they first went in was how they felt about N7, and the original poster kind of described it as being quite profound. There was a big focus on like N7 and what it means to the player and things like that. So we'll kind of cover that a little bit later on, but that was the first thing that kind of happened when they kind of spoke to Mike Gamble and the devs. Then they were asked whether they wanted a prequel, a direct sequel, or something at a different time and a different place. Most of the participants actually requested a direct sequel, but from the concept art, the participants kind of had a feel that it was going to be a sequel at a later time. And then the most interesting part of this, other than the whole N7 thing, is that there was two brand new races that were shown in concept art. The first was called the Arrogant, which, and I'm quoting directly from here, were really skinny, almost skeletal. Their bodies vaguely looked like bony Turians. They had glowing eyes and a neck that frilled up around their chest. And this guy kind of said that it reminded them of the aliens from Independence Day, which is, I guess, a quite good analogy if you think about it, because those are one of the first kind of aliens I think about when you think of like movie aliens. So, but from what he describes, it's kind of a cross between that, a Turian, and you know that those I can't remember the name of the dinosaurs, but you know the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park from the first one. They're like attack that guy with the ink.
The Dilophosaurus.
That's it. That's what I'm getting in my head at the moment. And the second was an ancient advanced guardian. And they had similar colorings to the Reapers, but they showed a classic sci-fi fantasy golem look. They had sleek, rocky, metallic bodies with bright glowing lines flowing all around them. Some of them had fragmented pieces and shattered bits floating in place around them. So they didn't specify a name for this race, but he's just called them the Ancient Advanced Guardians. What's kind of the most interesting thing is when I heard about these ones is we were discussing it, and I'm not a big Halo fan, but we were talking about it, and the first thing I thought about was the Guardians? I don't remember.
The big bird things, the Guardians, yes. Yeah, I mean, they're huge.
Yes, so, that's the first thing I thought about. Yeah, with the whole like glowing lines and stuff like that. But what's interesting is the whole floating fragmented pieces floating around them, and that kind of reminded me of the whole Explorer Wanted posters, where there's that one scene of the Mako kind of going towards the mountain with these floating rocks. So maybe these aliens will have some kind of capability to actually kind of use telekinesis, kind of be able to kind of lift things like that. From from the first race, the Arrogant, it's almost describing of what people kind of thought the Ket were from the survey leak in April, as well as the E3 trailer with those mysterious aliens with kind of like Turian features. And the second is kind of similar to what people are kind of assuming the Remnant are going to be, like this ancient race, this mysterious ancient race. So maybe this gives us kind of a clearer image of what these people are going to look like. So the next point was they said that there was several CG models of the different races, including the Asari, humans. But the most interesting part of this was they wanted the participants to basically pick 2 races out of the normal council races and just remove them out. And the participants basically chose I think he said the Krogans and the Quarians to be removed out. Whether I think this is going to be, whether there's going to be any races kind of removed from the main story game, I don't really know. We know there's definitely going to be Krogans in Mass Effect Andromeda because there's been conceptual prototypes and they're in the posters and they're in the trailer. Whether there's Quarians, I don't know. But it's interesting to see that Bioware were considering removing races. Or they had the notion of doing it anyway. The next point was the fact that they were shown a variety of landscapes and foreign terrains, which looked very, very impressive apparently. And they were also showed a Normandy-esque kind of ship, which looked a little bit more modern to kind of fit into a sequel design. The devs made it very clear that the game was going to be about exploration and discovery. And they also said that, I think Mike Campbell said something about how the game's going to feel like it's a player playing in a strange world, in like a strange world in a strange time. It's going to be completely brand new. I think the entire quote was, "It's a stranger in a strange land like Mass Effect 1. So it's very interesting to see that at a very early point in time they were like, we're going to make the game very much about discovery and exploration. The original poster also commented on the fact that some of the armor concepts actually had G8 or C6. They couldn't really make out what it was. But it's interesting because a lot of the people who commented on this post thought that C6 could actually stand for Cat 6, like the for people who don't know, but Cat 6 was one of the main enemies in the Citadel DLC, and it kind of stands for Category 6 people who are dishonorably discharged from the Alliance, and they tend to be basically kind of criminals who kind of go and end up working for mercs. They kind of be quite unstable, and they're not the most honourable people, but it's interesting to see that maybe Cat 6 might be coming back into the game. There was also strong indication that the main character is going to be human, mainly for the fact that Gamble said that the player character had to be someone that was easily relatable to, and the person can actually assimilate into this main character. We already know that the main character is going to be human now, so that's kind of like, they'd already kind of confirmed that quite early on. And I think the final statement is, well, there's 2 final statements. One of them is the fact that armor customization is going to be very, very detailed, and Mike Gamble also stated that the devs were actually looking at ways to kind of have a kind of save transfer system, but not looking at actual proper like save files being transferred, and not looking at the motion comic like Genesis from Mass Effect 2, but something that would be able to kind of take in key core decisions, things like that. But we didn't really have much information on that from this, or actually what's been released from Bioware anyway, so the closest thing we can probably think of is they're maybe looking at something like the Keep from Dragon Age Inquisition to see if that can maybe take your choices over. But that's the main points. We've kind of run through them really quickly. You can probably read the entire post because we'll pop it in the description anyway. But what I thought was really interesting from this is the whole idea that N7 is going to be really, really profound. They really wanted to know, from what this guy said, they really wanted to know what players thought of N7, and maybe this is kind of indications with everything we know about the N7s, and we've already got a lot of information like Ghost Riders in the Sky and that E3 trailer being so emphasised on that N7 character. Maybe what we know about N7s is going to get turned on its head. So that's pretty much it. Yeah,
I think, and we made the slight comparison to describing one of the aliens a little bit earlier on to Halo, and specifically Halo 5. But Halo 5 was another game where, in terms of characters and story, basically got turned on its head. And spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't played Halo 5, but the 2 main characters in that game is Chief and Cortana, who have been together for 4 games, and they've gone through thick and thin together, and then suddenly in Halo 5 is Chief having to try and stop Cortana from basically destroying the universe, and yeah, it's something that I didn't expect at all. and obviously it's still to be played out in the next game. But yeah, so I think developers are willing to take more risk in that kind of regard now, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if suddenly, like, the N7 character that we've seen in the trailer that isn't our main character, not so much, I think we were saying this when we originally tried to record this, but not so much a bad guy, but this is not quite a good guy either.
I think it kind of sounds, it kind of seems like whatever N7 is to us, which is kind of like that really honourable, hardworking, tough dude.
It's going to push our concept and perception of what N7 is.
And there's been a lot of focus. That E3 trailer was dedicated in showing that N7, that symbol on that guy's chest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be important, and we know that's not our main player character. So we know we're not gonna be playing an N7. So, well, we'll find out and wait and see, I guess.
Yeah.
And also another good interesting thing about this leak is, we say it's a leak, but
it's from almost 2 years ago at this point. So yeah, supposedly.
What's really interesting is that it confirms a lot of things from the April survey leak. We didn't know at this point in 2014. They didn't have any clue that it was going to be set in Andromeda. But there's a huge focus on things like exploration and discovery and things like that in this kind of post, which even the survey kind of didn't really kind of touch on. It isn't until you kind of see the devs talking about it, they are saying that, the game's going to go back to its roots and it's going to be about exploration and discovery. So you can tell that they had a really very kind of, they had an idea of what the game was going to be, and it's just it is going to fluctuate, and probably what's going to be in the survey leak and what was in this post is probably, there's going to be things that are not going to be in the game, there's going to be things that are changed, because that's just how cycles work. But it's interesting to see that there was a clear kind of objective to the point. So
there is, and again, I said this in the original attempt for this recording. You look at that kind of post from back in 2014, and the point of exploration is basically being really hammered in now with like the concept art from N7 Day, which is like various teams of people on different kinds of planets running different tests and scans and things like that. So exploration is going to be like the core point, I think, but I don't think they're going to like massively step away from the action element as well. So I think that will still be there, but I think like everyone basically now realizes it's going to be more of a Mass Effect 1, where it was basically part exploration, and the rest of the story kind of comes in with that as well. So that's it, yeah. So we'd love to know what you guys think on this, because we kind of stumbled across it, and like we said at the time when this was originally posted, we weren't even a channel, so we don't really know what to make of this. There are interesting points, and like Rima was saying, it does kind of back up a few points in terms of the April 2015 Reddit leak there as well. So please let us know what you think. We'd be interested to know down in the comments below. And as always, you can subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all things Mass Effect, and you can help the channel to grow by sharing the video too. Again, thank you very much for listening and for watching. We'll see you again very, very soon.